Mexican street cat is such a good friend to me, y'all. I love this cat. But yesterday we got in a huge fight, and I was thinking about breaking up with her. I really was. And I just basically got triggered, and I had to calm down, sit back, and look at what was going on. But yeah, she has been such a good friend to me. I don't know if I've talked about it. I think I talked about it in one of my videos, but she's like not very cuddly in general. Like, they called her Distancia. Distancia at the laundromat because she would rub against someone's leg if she wanted something, but if you tried to pet her, you would always miss by like half an inch. And she's really good at dodging being touched by people. So this cat has issues just like I do. She doesn't want to get too close. And actually, I've seen so many ways, like I've resolved a lot of, well, I haven't like fully resolved, but I've become aware of and have been able to work on some of my own issues with this cat, you guys. How amazing is that? So yeah, she's being such a good friend to me. She puts up with so much nonsense from me. It's not even funny. So yeah, now she'll let me hold her like a little baby, which is cute. Oh, and we've got the maintenance man who loves to come and yell in the hallways. That's wonderful. Anyway, yeah, she'll let me hold her like a baby, and she'll do the little slow half eye blinks at me, which is so cute. And I can do half eye blinks to her, and she'll do it back, which is so cute. And sometimes if she's like staring at me, and she has like one eye that's like slightly crooked or off center, like something, which is like kind of funny because it makes her look a bit unhinged. But I just think it's really cute. And she'll be staring at me with her little crooked unhinged eye. And it's mildly unhinged, like you can't notice it all the time. And I'll talk to her, and she'll do this little half blink squint in response to whatever I'm saying, which is really funny. If I ask her a question, like at the perfect timing, she'll do a half squint. It's kind of like, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I get it. Like that's what it kind of looks like. It's super funny. Yeah, she's my little girlfriend. But yeah, yesterday, oh man, we had a huge fight because, okay, so I have been here for almost a month. We had one cockroach, but I saw how it got in. And I don't know if she's the guilty party or not, because she likes to go find these things and then bring them to play with. Like, as I mentioned on my TikTok, she came and put one on my bed once in the middle of the night. So that was a situation. But this last time I saw one come in because she was outside and she came in. So she's like running inside from being out on the balcony, and I see this cockroach run in along with her. So I don't know if it just came in with opportunity, or if she brought it in and dropped it at the same time. I don't know. I suspect her, but anyways, I was able to put something on top of this little thing, and yeah, I put diatomaceous earth on them, and I cover them with something, and I just leave it for a few days, and then I come back and they're done for. I don't know. Some of them are kind of beautiful looking. I know it sounds weird. And you know what it did? It came in and it went right beside a bucket, and I was watching it and I was like, oh my God. And then its legs started doing some kind of sound. It started making some beautiful sounds with its back legs, which, to be honest, it kind of scared me. But I was also like, oh my God, this is part of the beautiful noise that I hear outside at night. It was just kind of strange to me, kind of fascinating. I don't know, like I didn't grow up with cockroaches in Canada. So I know a lot of people like hate them and have reactions to them and stuff like that. And like, I kind of do. But on the other hand, to me, they're just kind of like this cool big insect. Like, I don't know, like I looked up if they can bite people. I looked up if they carry diseases, and like apparently not. So I keep my kitchen and everything like super clean. You know, what better motivation is there to make sure you wipe off every surface, to make sure you never leave dishes or even dishwater in the sink. Like, yeah, like I said, so many aspects of life in the tropics and life in Mexico have been transforming me in the ways that I needed, and that was one of them. You know, I'm pretty good, but I could be kind of lazy about housework from time to time. There are some things that I'm a real perfectionist about. Housework is not one of them. I don't like a messy, cluttered place, but sometimes I kind of I'll put things off from time to time, but with the threat of a cockroach coming, forget it. Everything will be done. And having that kind of routine and commitment has made a huge difference for me. Okay, anyway, so that was the first cockroach. Then, okay, so let me tell you about the fight I had with my cat. It was a bad fight. Okay, so yesterday, I was on my computer, I was working, and my cat was being really, really needy because normally I feed her before bed so she won't bother me in the morning, and I didn't. So she had food, but like the food dish was down low, and you know how they get. So she was like, you know, trying to bug me, and I was kind of ignoring her. And then I could tell she was kind of irritated. And so she goes over to one side of the room and starts looking at something really intensely. And it was like some papers they had on the floor or something. Some stuff I'd been working on, and I was using the floor space to write on it. She's looking underneath it, like really intensely. And I was kind of annoyed. I'm like, oh, so now you're going to, like, I don't know why in my mind I thought that she was literally doing this, like she was like faking to get my attention. And so I'm like, oh, come on. So I went over and I'm like, let me go check. And I lifted it up, and there was a cockroach, guys. There was a cockroach there, and I was like, ah! And do you know what this cat did? This cat, who, by the way, when I saw that first cockroach, I decided, and I have so much to say. So when I first came here, I left her for a few days and came back, and there was a lizard head stuck to the floor. Okay, it was so disgusting. You know, like you can kind of see something from afar, and you're like, on your floor, on like an otherwise clean white marble floor, and you're like, this, you can tell from a distance, like it looks organic and like it shouldn't be there. And you're like, okay, this is something gross. You know, it was just like such a weird shape, and I'm like, what the hell is this now? So yeah, I went over and I'm like, oh my God, right? And the thing that sucks is like, it had this like kind of sad look on its face. It's like eyes were closed, but it's like, it looks so sad. I felt so bad for it. I'm like, I don't know how badly you suffered, comrade. My friend, I don't know how bad you suffered before this death, but I honor you and I'm very sorry. And it was also kind of a big head, but the body was completely gone. So I'm like, that's disgusting. She ate it because it was nowhere else to be found. So I saw that and I was like, I kind of want the lizards in here. Like there's not a whole lot. I found a little tiny one in my bedroom the other day. I caught him inside this little clear plastic bag. And because he was caught in there, I could kind of look at him up close, and I was looking at his underneath, his body, and I could see his little heart beating. Like his skin was so thin, I could see his heart beating. And you know, the details on the lizard's skin, it was so small and cute, and I was like, man, this is such a beautiful, amazing thing, this little creation that has consciousness and cells that work and a heart that beats. Like the same mystery that beats his heart is beating my heart as well. To me, that's what God is. Like, it was just so amazing. He was so cute and tiny, and I'm like, you just got your life saved, my friend. You just avoided a horrifically gory death. So I went and put this lizard out, and he ran away. And God help these lizards, man. They have it hard here. The other day I saw there's this black bird. It's like a tropic version of a crow. It's like black and sleek looking, and I think it has like a little yellow on its wings. And I saw it going crazy and trying to attack this tree, and I looked, and there was a lizard, and the lizard was trying to escape, going around the tree, striking out at the bird. You know, of course it's just threatening the bird. The lizard can't do anything. And then it tried to run away, and I saw it running, and I'm like, oh good, you're gonna make it. And then the bird came and did something to it, and I saw the lizard running, and its mouth was wide open, and there was a bit of red at the back of its tail. And it was just such a vibrant, when a scene like really is really lively, you know, and I was like, wow, like the red blood and the open mouth, like it was just so dramatic. I felt so bad for that little lizard, but he escaped. I stayed and I watched. I saw the bird looking around for its lunch, but the lizard was gone. And yeah, it just starts to, like, that's another thing I had to really grapple with since coming here is pain, suffering of existence, the pain and suffering of the world, things that are not fair and have no answer. Because I'm looking, I'm like, well, now that bird can't eat. Like, what's the right thing? And I struggle with this often, like, why did creation make it so that we feel pain when these kind of things are necessary? And, you know, back and forth, back and forth. So anyway, that little fiasco stood out to me. So yeah, I screamed. Actually, no, I didn't scream. I didn't really scream. I was like, ah, kind of like that, just like in shock. And what does the cat do? Turn and walk out of the room very quickly. And so I'm like, oh my God. And so the bug starts running and it runs like somewhere else. And I'm like, oh God, how am I gonna catch it? How am I gonna see where it goes? And that's when I was like, oh, I have a hunter living in my house. Let me go get my cat. Oh, and so all this to say, when I first saw that dead lizard, I started clipping her nails because I'm like, I want her to catch these things, but I don't want her like to kill them and all this stuff. But then I changed my mind. I was like, she's still gonna kill them. Like, I can't cut her teeth. So I'm like, let her have nails so that she can catch if any like these roaches come in the house, she can catch them and do away with them. That was my like idea. So I was like, great, I can put this person who lives in my house for free and cost me money to work today. That's great. So as I closed the door so the roach could not leave the room, and I went to go get her, and she could kind of see me coming, and I think she knew that like something was up. It was like different than before. Like I was in a kind of a scared mood, like, or not scared, but like I had adrenaline a little bit, and I wanted something from her. And so she looked kind of nervous. And when I reached out to get her, she was like, hey. And then I kind of grabbed her a little bit harder, like, no, come here. And then she went, and she really freaked out. And then I can't remember if she like tried to bite me. Yeah, she like kind of bit me a little bit, but not really. I've seen her before, like in times when I had to get her quickly to leave or something. She has an instinct to like bite me or like scratch me. And I'll see her go to do it and then stop. Because she's like, no, I shouldn't, like, this is the person that, you know, which is really cute to see. But in this moment, she freaked and she kind of like bit me, like not hard, but like still kind of bit me. And I was like, oh, I was so mad. And then she ran and hid under the bed where I couldn't reach her. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I just got triggered. I got triggered by all the people who have run when I finally needed them and asked them for one fucking thing. You know? And in that moment, I was like, F this cat. You know, I asked for one thing. And it's funny, like, this is like such a, you know, I don't mind sharing this because this is a process that I go through and I'm aware of what's happening and I'm going and learning from it. Most people don't recognize moments like this in their life and they don't get deep into it. I've talked to like people with low emotional intelligence about experiences like this before, and they like try to judge me about it. They're like, oh, you know, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you have no, you know. So anyway, I was like, oh man. So then I went back in the room. I got a yogurt container, an empty yogurt container, and some diatomaceous earth. I found the little guy. He was scuttling around, going around. And what's funny is when I first saw him, and this is the first time it occurred to me, I saw this like cockroach. I could tell he was seeing me and like frozen and like planning his next little sneaky move. And I had this weird feeling where it like reminded me of my ex. Isn't that so unpleasant that someone like encounters a roach and it like reminds them of you? because of how sneaky he was. He was like very sneaky, you know? And it's like, to me, this is the most unattractive quality on a man. Out of anything, is like sneakiness. The lack of being bold, having to be passive aggressive and sneaky. You can't be like, yep, I'm a man, I'm coming in, I'm doing this, I'm taking this, whatever. No, I gotta be sneaky. I gotta sneak around in the shadows and freeze when you see me and then quickly scurry somewhere else. Like, it's just so unattractive. And if you tell that to a guy like that, then they try to switch and they try to be like bold and like do what they want, and they become stubborn and brutes. Like, knowing how to be a self-led, confident person who still has social awareness is something that takes a damn lifetime for most people. And that's one thing I'm damn grateful for. That's something that I started learning on the playground as a kid. And I made a lot of mistakes as a kid so that I could, have this awareness as an adult. But yeah, people who grew up in like really restrictive homes, or like religious homes, or like with parents who were like, thought they were your God and never gave you a chance to, express or exert your own power. Anyway, so you can see how many stories I get from just these like small things. And you wonder why I have to dunk my head in ice water in the mornings to cool down my brain, because my brain is like, if you have a laptop with a trillion tabs open and it gets like boiling hot, my brain can be like that. That's why I've been making these videos. It's been helping me offload all these thoughts. Usually I have like papers and journals and things filled with writing all around. I talked about that in a video, how I was in the hospital writing on napkins, and I didn't want help from anyone on anything. I had the nurse come in my room. She's like, do you need anything? I'm like, no, you don't have to do anything. I'm fine, thank you. And then this is after one of my many surgeries. So I'm like, after surgery, I want to keep walking, I got up, I left, I started walking around the unit at night, which was really beautiful. It was like a second floor, and below was like an atrium with trees, and it was quiet because it was nighttime. And walking around a hospital at nighttime is something I remember from my childhood. That's what I used to do. I used to sneak out at night and go walk around and like look at things, try to avoid nurses and stuff like that. I'm thinking back to that now, and I'm like, how did I do that? It must have been because the time that I was in the hospital was to get my biopsy, and after that I could not walk. So was it the night before? Why would I be in the hospital the night before surgery? I'm not sure. There's some things about my childhood that I'm like, how did that happen? And I have to really think about it. Typical trauma, CPTSD, memory loss, and confusion. So yeah, and then when I came back, she had changed the sheets, made the bed, and she had my little napkins there, but she had brought me, you guys, a pad of paper. And I think about that now, and I could still just cry. Someone who saw that I could use help just went and did it for me. They observed what I needed and did it for me without being asked, and didn't ask for a thanks or anything in return, Just like, that simple thing, it just really affected me. And actually, the night before, I think I never saw her after that. I think she was off shift by the time that I left. And the night before that, she was talking to me. She looked like a mixed race woman, maybe like a white and black mixed woman. And she was like asking me questions like, how did you end up here? Like, why are you here by yourself? And like, oh my God, you had a heart attack. You're so young, blah, blah, blah. This was like one of the surgeries I had after the heart attack. I remember telling her, I'm like, yeah, this is like my life. This is what the plan that God has set me on. And she's like, what? And she's like, oh my God, if my daughter was in the hospital by herself, like, I would just be losing my mind. And I'm like, yeah. I've been in the hospital by myself since I was 9 years old. And she's like, what? And she was like looking at me with this like admiration. It wasn't like pity. And I don't know how I feel about that. You know, there's nothing I can change about my family circumstances, and my inability to ask for help. I don't know. There have been people I have asked for help before, like my YouTube friends when I had the heart attack, and they showed up for me. That was amazing. There's something that feels good about having famous people help you. I'm gonna be honest. There's something extra good about it. Even internet famous. But, okay, what the hell were we talking about? Yes, I had to fight with my cat yesterday, yeah. So after I got that cockroach under control, later I was like, we were giving each other the silent treatment. She was kind of staying away from me. I was kind of staying away from her. Sometimes if we have a little bit of a issue, like if I step on her tail by accident, I'll apologize profusely and immediately. But this time I was not apologizing for what happened. I was mad. And then after I sat down and I thought about it for a while, I was like, actually, I don't need to be mad because I should be grateful. Like, she showed me what was there. Like, I never would have known that dumbass roach was there if she hadn't showed me. And I'm like, this is what capacity she has to give, you know? And I know that her capacity is not to like be available to be grabbed upon command. Like, that's not in her wheelhouse of capabilities based on her past as a street cat who was getting beat by people and who had never been pet before. And what's really cute about her is when I first started petting her, this is like the first time she's been petted or like interacted with a human. So she was like kind of awkward. Like, most cats know how to like, you know, mold themselves into your hand or to your arm, but she was like awkward. She would like try to rub her head into my hand and like miss, or, you know, I'd try to hold her and she'd be like stiff as a skeleton. You know, it was really cute. And this again reminded me of when I was a kid. My mom used to make fun of me and call me rigor mortis because I didn't know how to hug people, right? And I'm like, man, so this cat is just like the version of me that needed time and understanding because of how different she was in order to come around. And so I was like, okay, I could be grateful for what she can give me and give her space and patience for what she needs. And yeah, then she came back over and she was being real cuddly, nice girl, and we forgave each other. Then we had another fight again that night. This was a minor fight. I recently figured out that I like to go on the roof of my building. They are really lax with stuff around here. Like, the apartment across from and beside me are both still empty and the doors have no locks on them. So I have gone in and looked around there. And you know, me being indecisive as Libra, I'm like, do I want to move to this one instead? Do I like it better? Etc. And so yeah, they have the access to the rooftop is still unlocked. I was really sad when they put up a wrought iron gate, and I was like, no. But then I'm like, oh, they're not gonna put a lock on it. They're just not that responsive. Like, it's gonna take, who knows how long it will take for them to actually put a lock on it. And so I like to go up there at night and enjoy the view, as you may have seen in some of my previous video. I like to go there in the morning and do my rituals overlooking the city near that big, wonderful tree. And I was thinking, man, I really wish I just knew someone who was cool, who could come here and just like hang out up here and enjoy the stars with me at night, you know? But the people I've met here, they're like in relationships, or they're married, or like whatever. And you know, when people get like that, they're just like kind of complacent about doing spontaneous random things with a single friend, you know? And I did meet, you know, one cool guy, but he turned out to be a real flake and a weirdo. So I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. So yeah, and that person turned out to be my cat. So I brought her up the other night. I carried her up, and of course she doesn't like being carried and moved about. But she was so curious. You can see she's looking at everything like, ooh, I get to leave the apartment. And so I carried her up to the top floor, and then we went and sat down on top of the roof. Now before this, I had made sure there was like no way she could do anything weird or get hurt or fall off or anything. It's like the perfect place for her to just kind of hang out and run around. And so she's looking everywhere. She wanted to run. She's trying to get off my lap. But I'm like, no, I want you to stay here. And I was thinking, is she going to come back if I let her go? Is she going to run away? Is she going to go down the stairs and run into the apartment? And she's going to freak out and act wild again and not come back to me? I don't want the drama. But I'm like, okay, let me see if I can trust her, because and this is another thing I'm learning, trust. How do you learn to trust somebody with something big? You start with something small and see what happens. So I had let her out on the balcony, and she figured out from going on the balcony that she could jump up and go over onto the neighbor's balcony and be in a place where I can't see what she's doing. And I'm like, okay, I'll let her do it. I'm gonna give her that freedom. And then when I went to the balcony, I called her and said, Maurice, and she came running. And she came back home when I called her. And I was like, oh, okay. So she had a bit of freedom and ability to become wild, and she still came home when I called her. Very cute. So I'll trust her on this big ass rooftop. This rooftop is huge. It's really nice. So finally I let her go down, and she was going around looking at everything. She was having a wonderful time, so excited. You know, she used to be a street cat. I mean, this girl has got some street smarts. That's another thing I really like about her, is she's got the street smarts. When shit gets real, you can trust her to be down, you know? And that also reminds me of myself. Like, for example, when I had her in my older apartment, you're not supposed to have pets in there. So when the maintenance guy came to the door, and he was coming in, I was like, oh crap, he can't see the cat. So what did I do? I picked her up quickly, and so she knew something was up. And I went and I put her under the bed. And I looked, and she was like standing there, like waiting, like on guard. She's like, I got this. She knows not to come out from under the bed. I'm like, is she going to try to? Nope, she didn't. Because you know cats, you tell them to do something, they're like, oh, I'm doing the opposite, sorry. But nope, she's like, she knew that, like, okay, we're gonna do this. So the guy came in and he did whatever, and then he left. And I said, okay, Maurice, you can come out. And she came out. It was so cute. And that's what I really felt like. We were a little team. And I have this picture of her that I posted on my Instagram where she has this toy that she absolutely loves. I remember looking at it like, what cat would like this crazy weird toy? It's like a fluorescent green stick, plastic stick with a string. And then this, like, I don't know, I would describe it as like an octopus of yarn at the end. Colorful yarn, and she's like obsessed with this toy. So I took this picture of her playing with it, and there's this one shot of her. She looks really fierce. She's like, with her mouth open. She has these fangs, and she's like attacking it. And something about this picture just like, it hits me straight in the heart. It like just knocks like all my heartstrings. And it makes me emotional when I look at this picture. You might think, what? That's weird. But it's like, shows her fierce side, her fight to survive, her willingness to stand up and protect herself, and maybe the way she has had to protect herself in the past, you know? She lived next to the laundromat, these like evil ass dogs. If you look in the TikTok video I have of her when she's talking about being a princess, you can see these hideous dogs barking. These are like the worst dogs. Of course, they're like mistreated dogs, which happens a lot here. They're huge, and they live in this small little yard, and they have this like fence where they can jump up and bark at everyone walking by. And if you had a stray finger within that fence, you're gonna lose it, you know? I had one, and I just got used to them. And eventually I was walking by, and I saw this one dog. It was like, had its feet in the water, and it came and it was like, whoa, and it jumped up on the fence at me, and it like got water on me from its feet. And I just wanted to, I wish I had a taser or something, you know? Like, I love dogs now. I became a dog person from living here. But in that moment, I'm just like, F this dog. Anyway, that reminds me of like, what happens, right? We hate children or we hate adults, but whose fault is it the way that they became how they were? The parents, the owners. It's not the dog that's to blame, right? Just like Frankenstein. We sit there and we go, oh, the Frankenstein monster, so scary, so terrible. No, Frankenstein is the name of the scientist who brought that monster to life so it could suffer. He's the real monster. All right, we're at half an hour. I want to finish what I was getting at with everything. So yeah, when I saw that, and I saw that she still has that rough side to her, that survival, that fight or flight side to her that she can access. But I want to give her a life where she doesn't have to access that anymore. She doesn't have to be that girl, you know? And of course that got to me because I was like, and I know I'm not a stray cat, okay? But you can see that I'm starting to find correlations between myself and this cat and using it to help heal myself and realize things about myself. You know, I might even make a course about this because people usually do this work with their children and they don't actually come to the realizations. They just project onto the children. Oh, ungrateful, oh, misbehaving, right? They don't stop and think, oh, wait, how was this like me as a child? How, you know what I mean? So anyway, and it made me think about like the men I've known and how they knew that I had a hard life where I had to like fight for myself. I had to be in fight or flight. I had to protect myself. And I can't imagine being a man and seeing a woman like that and being like, yeah, like, you know, she's gonna have to now use fight or flight and protection against me. Like that's, to me, that's just the most rotten thing. Like, when I see that picture of my cat, I can't imagine her ever having to defend herself like that against me. Or like protect herself like that if I was nearby, because I would protect and guard her, you know, as this cat's protector, as someone who cares about and loves her. And these men in my past, man, they've just been weak. I have so many stories that would just blow your damn mind, and I'm going to be talking about them. Oh yes, I am. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a full circle moment for me to really appreciate myself and to maybe find that I can supply some of that admiration. I wanted, you know, a good, quote unquote, good man so I could feel protected, so I could admire someone for their bravery and their courage. And instead, I always chose weak cowards. But instead, I became the quote unquote man that I wanted. And this is so impressive to me because when I was younger, I used to do the superficial things that of the men that I wanted. For example, I remember when I was in my early 20s, I met this guy who was a wildland forest fighter, a forest firefighter. And I remember going, wow, like, wow, I really want to be with a guy like that. And one thing that any woman who has worked in forestry for any length of time can tell you is these guys are man-hoes. Don't take them seriously. They're not anyone to be in a relationship with. They're gone for, you know, months on end. They can't always contact you, whatever. They're in these camps with men for months at a time. I remember going into a camp like that as a woman with men who hadn't seen women all summer, and it was like being a drop of blood in a shark tank. These guys were coming right up to me and like blatantly hitting on me. Canadian guys don't act like that. They were beyond desperate. And that was really awkward. I remember just like not socializing at all, going straight to my room and locking the door. I'm like, I'm staying away from these dudes. Anyway, so when I realized that, I was like, I can't be with a wildland firefighter. I'm going to become one because I'm admiring these qualities in him. That must mean that it's something I have disowned or that I haven't really lived up to in myself, right? I'm like, what do I like about that? I'm like, well, he's someone who goes after adventure. He makes a good living. He's outdoorsy. He's brave. You know, and I'm like, I can become those things. So what did I do? I became, you know, a wildland fire ranger, not a firefighter, although they wanted me on the team. And I did the fitness test, but was there any way I could pass the upper body strength? No. You know, there's some things that physically I'm much better at than others naturally. Like I'm extremely flexible. I can run really fast without like having trained or anything like that. But upper body strength, you can look at my pictures. I got these long noodly arms, okay? They're not built for having power, okay? And yeah, even with my martial arts training, I was like, oh my God, this is the first time I've felt strength in my arms, and my arms started getting big, actually. I have some photos where I was like, oh my God, I'm starting to, like, to me, it looked very masculine. I actually didn't like the look of it on me. I didn't. I've always had these kind of like skinny, kind of bony, modelly looking arms. But then I'm like, oh my God, I'm starting to look a bit like a muscular man. And I really had to grapple with that. I mean, they were really useful, having these strong arms. But I don't want to look like that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to anybody who doesn't like it. Maybe I'll post a picture of it in a future video so you can see what I mean. Like, it was shocking. And that's another thing I did. I remember telling my ex, I'm like, you need to learn, how to get this aggressive fight energy you want to blow off on me, your wife, that you're angry at, when you are much bigger and more powerful than me. You need to take it out on your person who you're really angry at, aka your mother, or you need to go get some physical aggression out with some men. And you should join martial arts. Oh, I looked into it. I found a class I can go to, and the instructor told me I'll feel comfortable because, it's a class for everyone. Like, there's some women and some young people. And I'm like, why were you asking the instructor for a class with women and young people and a mixed group of ages? I'm like, you are a strong, big man in the prime of your life. You need to be up against other men. Didn't want to. What does that tell you? This is someone who, and I noticed this, likes to pick on weaker people only. And who is that like? My father. I found this out from my sister. My sister told me that she was R-word by a man who my father knew. And when she was with my father and she ran into him, and he wouldn't look at this man. He wouldn't say a thing. He was like, not like in a rude, like I'm ignoring you way, but like avoiding. He didn't want to confront the weak-ass man who did the R-word to his young daughter. Oh, but he would hit and yell at and take money from women. He would hit and yell at children. But men, my father's 6'5" bodybuilder with big muscles, scared of other men on his own level. What a horrible thing to realize. So yeah, my ex was not into the martial arts that I recommended for him. What's the first thing I did for myself when I came to Mexico? Martial arts. And that was the missing piece for me. And that's another thing I realized. I need to stop projecting onto these men. Because that's what I did, right? I would project onto these men the things that I needed to do for myself and try to get them to do it for themselves, right? And of course, that was feeding their perfect pattern of negative relationships, with having parents who were not satisfied with their performance, and parents who were dissatisfied with them, and parents who wanted to change them into something they weren't, right? They were getting that trauma relived through me. You see how it all comes full circle? And so yeah, the martial arts was the missing piece for me. I really needed to do that. And I can't tell you how healing and how amazing it was for me physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, and socially. I would not have made it through my first 6 months in Mexico without my martial arts family. I could write a whole book on that alone. I probably will. Like, I have so much content about Mexico. I'm trying to get through it, but there's so much. So anyway, I think I finally said everything I wanted to say in this video. That is now 40 minutes long. If you made it this far, thank you so much. If you learned something, realized something about yourself, found something that you want to try, any kind of ideas that you're going to, go forward with in your life, I'd love to know. Leave me a comment below. And please hit the like button, and I'll see you again.